Hello everyone and welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video we're going to continue my long in-depth army series on the Ossiarch Bonereapers in part 7, and in this particular video we'll be talking all things about the Ossiarch Bonereaper Battalions, as we have already covered the allegiance abilities, sub-allegiances, units, heroes, behemoths, monsters, endless spells and scenery pieces. So if there's anything that you want to know about anything else to do with the Ossiarch Bonereapers, go check out my earlier videos in this series and you'll find there'll be a title for whatever you're looking for. Go check that out. In this video it's just specifically the battalions. I have also done a why play Ossiarch Bonereaper video as well, so go check that out if you're wondering why I should still play this army. And I have also done a how to start collecting video for the Ossiarch Bonereapers, telling you the best way, in my experience, on how to actually start collecting this army. What I'd like to say as well before we go into this video is that if you've got any more questions or anything like that, put it in the comments down below and I'll be happy to answer your questions or give you any advice best I can, as this is an army I've got quite a lot of experience with. And alternatively, if any of you guys who are watching this video have quite a bit of experience with the Ossiarch Bonereapers and feel like I've missed something, put that down below in the comments as well, because anyone who's watching this video to try and learn how to play Ossiarch Bonereapers that bit better, or just getting into the army, will most certainly appreciate all your advice. And then the last thing I want to do is say a massive shout out to my patrons and YouTube members who, because of these people, I am able to continue making content for you guys to try and help you get into Age of Sigmar and continue your Age of Sigmar journey. So my biggest and top supporters are going to be my Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragon. So this is going to be Stuart F and Filq. Thank you so much for your continued support. That tier is a huge amount of support you're giving the channel, so thank you so much for being so kind. And then my Morgasts, which is going to be Bleed Red. Thank you so much for your continued support, mate. And my Vampires, which are going to be Mir, Martin S, Rouse321, David A, Ronni H, SpareBear, Christopher H, Stence, Northdrop, Nathan F, and Andrew G. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Makes a world of difference for the channel. And then my Necromancers, which is Jacq.l, RadiationRiley, AW77, Dice Sagas, WolfNick, Michal W, Quad, Cranky Wombat, Christopher C, Christopher F, James S, Robin S, Steve T, James T, Patrick F, JJ, Thomas B, R. Christopher and Madcap. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Anyone who would like to become one of these amazing people, click the join button next to the subscribe button, or click the link to my Patreon on top of the description down below. But if you can't do that, make sure you smash the like button if you do enjoy this video. And then just one more thing I want to say before we go straight into these battalions is we've got 3rd edition around the corner, so the points these battalions could change, how battalions work in 3rd edition could change as well. But I want to get this video done because then it completes the Ossiarch Bonereaper Army Series. I've got 4 of them on the channel, so that's why I want to get this done. And also I think they won't change them too much. Of course I don't know this completely, but to change like all the battalions in the game or how battalions completely work, they'll have to change it all in the battle tomes, and I can't see Ossiarch Bonereapers getting a battle tome, like a new one, anytime soon and stuff, so I feel like this still will be relevant going forward, but just bear in mind there may be a few tweaks. And then going on to specifically something about the Ossiarch Bonereapers is when you take a battalion in Age of Sigmar, you get yourself an extra command point at the start of the battle. Now if you've been following my series, Ossiarch Bonereapers, you'll know that Ossiarch Bonereapers don't really care for command points unless they can take them away from the enemy. So what you'll get being Ossiarch Bonereapers and taking a battalion is that means every time you decide, or I say decide, it's not like you get to choose, but basically determine how many Relentless Discipline points you get for a battle round, as you do before knowing who goes first at the start of the battle round, you'll get yourself an extra Relentless Discipline point if this battalion's on the table. So that's nice. It can, you know, if it's alive at the end of the game, you can have 5 Relentless Discipline points gathered throughout the game, so that's like an extra bonus you get. So don't worry, it's not like, oh, I'm going to miss out on the command ability thing, so I feel like all battalions of Ossiarch Bonereapers are automatically just worse. They like compensate that as well, so don't worry. And then the other thing to say for Ossiarch Bonereapers, as I've mentioned when I was doing my sub-allegiance video for them, looking at the legions, you're always going to pick a sub-allegiance when you go Ossiarch Bonereapers. You're always going to pick one of the legions, be it Mortis Praetorians, Crematorians, you know, Petrified Elite, Static Lords, Nomorad, Ivory Host, maybe not that one as much, but lots of other ones you can pick because they are worth it. Because if you want to go without a sub-allegiance for the Ossiarch Bonereapers, you're basically just doing that to say that you're different. Like, there's no real meaning to do it unless you really want a certain command tree, which there isn't. So you're doing it to be different. And the only caveat with that, though, is that the artifacts that you miss out on being able to choose from the lists can be a little bit annoying, because some of those artifacts are very nice. So just by taking a battalion allows you obviously to take an extra artifact, which means that you can have those extra things. It's really, really nice. Like there's one for the Liege Caveats I talked about before. He's got it's an artifact that allows the enemy to basically, if you attack a enemy hero, and I think if you hit against them, then the enemy hero can no longer do command abilities, and that enemy army loses 1 command point. It was something like that, but just like really fun. And then there's one that just gives him, I think, makes everyone get an extra. All the mounts get like an extra +1 attack or hit or something. Basically, there's lots of nice ones, or there's like a Ossiarch Bonereaper, well, Bone Shaper has got one that can make the 6-up death save for your army now be a 5-up on a certain unit that's next to him. So there's lots of extra artifacts you can take to try and help out your army. So that's why it could be a reason to take a battalion. That's what I'm trying to say just before we go straight into this. And then we will actually go into it now. So the Mortex Shield Corps, the first one we're going to be talking about, it's 120 points. Your organisation is Vokmortian, or 1 Mortisan Bone Shaper, or 1 Mortisan Soul Reaper, or 1 Mortisan Soul Mason. So as far as I understand there, you can pick which one you want. So bin off Vokmortian, and basically it's probably going to be the Mortisan Soul Mason. It's going to be the most common one taken, maybe the Bone Shaper. But you've got also 3 Mortec Guard units to be included in this battalion. And then your ability is going to be the Unbreakable Bulwark. So once per turn, you can use the Shield Wall command ability from a unit from this battalion without spending a Relentless Discipline point to do so. So just a quick reminder what that is. It's the Mortec Guard ability to, in the combat phase, re-roll failed save rolls, or just re-roll save rolls in general, because there is a difference there. So you can re-roll your save rolls, which is great, especially how you can make your Mortec flat out as a 4-up save, but you can make it a 3-up save if you go, you know, Mortis Batorians and Catacross and everything else. So you can make them really, really, really survivable. And with this, it allows you to basically save yourself 2 Relentless Discipline points per battle round, because you can use it in obviously your turn and your opponent's turn, because it says once per turn, not once per battle round. But it's only for one of your units, so just bear that in mind. And it is 120 points, so I think for an extra 10 points you could have a unit of 10 Mortec Guard, or you could have an extra 10 points, another Bone Shaper, or another 20 points, a Soul Mason, or for the same 120 points, you could have a Soul Reaper. But you do get the extra things as well, like the extra Relentless Discipline point. It saves you Relentless Discipline points. So if you want to take 3 units of Mortec Guard units in your army, and again, I can see people doing this. I don't really feel like there's much of a tax here in terms of your organisation, what you have to take. So if you're going to take this stuff anyway, and you go, and you're basically your plan for your army is it's pretty solid. But you're like, I'm really hungry for Relentless Discipline points in this army. What am I going to do? This could be a solution for you, because it's going to give you obviously that extra one. And it's going to save you spending them for your Mortec Guard units. So for me, I think personally this one's okay, but I feel like 120 points, like you don't have a lot of points in Ossiarch Bonereaper Army anyway, and I don't know if I'll be able to find 120 points to spend on this to justify it. That is my only concern. But again, if you guys have used it and used it to great success, let me know that in the comments. But I feel like I would rather spend the points on something else. As we've already talked about Ossiarch Bonereapers, everything is either around apart from a few big characters and stuff, everything is either around the 200 point category or the 130 point category, and anything in those categories are competing against themselves, including this battalion. And it's something you'll notice when we go through the battalion. Some of them are hit and miss, but I think this one is okay, but I'd rather spend the points on something else. So then the next one we're going to look at is going to be the Mortisan Trident. So it's 110 points, and what it includes is 1 Mortisan Bone Shaper, 1 Mortisan Soul Reaper, 1 Mortisan Soul Mason, and 1 Gofficer Harvester. So basically one of each of the small wizards, and then the big corpse car short leg crocodile thing. So what the ability allows is a deadly combination, which means each Mortisan from this battalion can attempt to cast 1 extra spell in your hero phase if it is within 18 inches of a Gofficer Harvester from the same battalion, and the Gofficer Harvester is within 3 inches of any enemy unit. So the problem I have with this battalion is I'm reading it, and I'm just like, each Mortisan from this battalion can attempt to cast one extra spell in your hero phase. And think, oh, for 110 points, I mean, that's 10 points less than having another wizard like a Soul Reaper, or, 30 points less than obviously having a Soul Mason, or, an extra 20 points from having a Bone Shaper, etc. I'm like, it's a little bit expensive, but an extra spell, that's pretty good for free wizards. Yeah, so now my Soul Mason is now a free spell caster. Bone Shaper is obviously a 2 caster, and the Soul Reaper is obviously a 2 caster at this point. I think, yeah, maybe I could see taking this. But then it has to be tied to the Gofster Harvester, where it's if you're within 18 inches of the Gofster Harvester. Now, it doesn't have to be wholly within, but just within 18, so you can just tag your base. And it's like, okay, so that it's a restriction, but, it's not too bad. The Gofster Harvester hasn't got a tiny base. 18 inches is quite a nice radius. And then it needs to be within 3 inches of a enemy unit. So this is the Gofster Harvester. And don't get me wrong, the Gofster Harvester, it's not going to shy away from combat. That thing can be a beast, especially in like Patron Elite or something. But it just feels like it was good when you first read this, saying you can cast extra spell, and then it sort of like ties it down a little bit when it says within 18 inches of the Gofster Harvester. So you go, okay, that's not too hard to do. And then it says, no, the Gofster Harvester needs to be within range of the, it needs to basically be in combat with the enemy. It's like, you just laid this on with restriction. And to be honest, I don't think I'd be taking a Bone Shaper, Soul Reaper, and Soul Mason. I've taken a Bone Shaper and a Soul Mason before, and I've enjoyed the combination a lot. And the Soul Reaper, like, you're spending a lot of points on your wizards, where you'd be better off just probably taking 2 Soul Masons if you really want to focus that much on little wizards. Gofster Harvester, I can see you definitely taking your army, but yeah, I feel like it's 110 points, and I don't feel like you get a lot. But then again, the spell lore for the Ossiarch Bonereapers is good. However, the spells and the War Scrolls for the Soul Reaper and the Bone Shaper are not so good. So them casting an extra spell, they will cast their one from the lore, but what are they going to do with basically the extra spell they could do? It's probably going to be a Mystic Shield, something like that. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this, so I don't think this one is worth it. And then you've got the Cataclysm Deathglaive Mover, and this one's only 80 points. So this is one I actually like because you have 2 Necropolis Stalker units and 1 Morgasts Harbinger units. And those are 2 units that I like a lot. I think Stalkers have got a lot of play. I've used them a lot, and they've I've been really happy with their performance and how they've been used. Like, I think I was taking the Patron Elite, and a lot of the time I was making my unit of 6, for example, have the big glaives that 2 in a unit of 6 has, basically the special weapon. They had -4 rend, and then the other ones had -3 rend. Like, it was great, and I'll be honest, a lot of the opponents I went against were surprised by how well the Stalkers were, and these were experienced opponents because they're not used to fighting much Stalkers. It's usually like Mortec Guard, etc. So they really did outshine. So the fact that they're in this battalion, I actually do own quite a few of these personally, so that's nice as well for me. And then 1 Morgasts Harbinger unit, and I've got a unit of 6 of those bad boys. So yeah, that's pretty cool as well. And then we've got, for its ability though, so I've been talking about I really like the organisation, but what is the ability actually going to do? So Supernatural Strike Force. So after armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, if all units from this battalion are wholly within 12 inches of this battalion's Morgasts Harbinger units, you can move any unit from this battalion up to 6 inches. So basically, this is good, and it just outrightly says this is made for like an alpha charge, and because these units can be very offensive in terms of their output and everything else, it sounds great, right? The only thing I will say is obviously go Static Lords, because if we say we do Static Lords, the Necropolis Stalkers, let's say the enemy's deployed 24 inches away from you, so you've got to make 24 inches, right, with your Necropolis Stalkers. They move 6. They can move an extra, they can set up an extra 6 inches with this battalion. So they've moved 12 inches. You then do the extra command ability you've got for your Ossiarch Bonereapers to allow them to move an extra 3 inches. So they've moved 15 inches. and then you run your Stalker unit as well, which will be on average, let's say the low average of 3. You can pop a relentless discipline point for your Stalkers to, let's say, give you the good average, so that's a 4. So then before you know it, you've gone, what, 15, so that's 19 if my maths is right. So then the enemy's still 6 inches away. So you can't guarantee your Stalkers getting into combat. What I will say though is, like, if you can re-roll that run roll, like I said, in Static Lords, because you're running charging, you re-roll that run roll, you get the low average of a, you get a 3, re-roll it, then you get the high average of a 4, and then you're still 6 inches away. It means you'll be able to re-roll your charge dice for your Stalkers as well. So, like, I'm being quite harsh when I'm saying this, but you can't guarantee the charge to them. It's likely that they'll charge in, but you can't guarantee it. The Morgasts Harbinger unit, you can guarantee though, because it can charge 3d6, and they just, I think they move 9 inches, top of my head, 6 wounds, 9 inches, top of my head, and then they've got it. So I've practiced with them, they can get in. The only problem is though, is that if the enemies set up their screens well, your alpha charge means diddly co-op, because yes, your Morgasts Harbinger unit can fly, but being able to travel that distance and then fly over that enemy unit, you're going to need to get yourself a really good charge roll, and your Morgasts Harbingers can't re-roll their charges because you don't have access to the generic command abilities of re-rolling charges currently in Age of Sigmar from the General's Handbook. So that is the caveat, that there's screens. However, your Morgasts Harbingers, they've got 2-inch range. If you go the big glaives, go big glaives. They're a lot cooler, and that's how I built and painted my ones up. And they're just damage free. You know, what's not to like? But you just have to bear in mind that if the enemy knows what you're doing, they're just going to deploy you back, and you're going to have to rethink your strategy because you won't just be able to charge in everything at once. And bear in mind that this is obviously purposely, this whole battalion is just for that purpose of doing an alpha charge, right? Because you could use it to help your movement, but you've got enough movement anyway if you wanted to, like, play it cool and not attack straight away. So the enemy's got good screening. Yeah, you're going to kill the screens, but you'll probably take a lot of hurt back, and you're going to invest probably a lot of points into this. Like, it's not an expensive battalion, but in the organisation you will spend a lot of points probably. That's the only thing. But the enemy hasn't screened well, then this is going to go to a good successful plan will be executed, shall we say. But what I do like about this, specifically, apart from, you know, the organisation and everything else, is the 80 points. So again, this is really cheap. It's going to get you an extra relentless discipline point, and it's going to allow you to take the extra artifact, which I think is, like, although this is hit and miss in terms of is your alpha strike going to work or not, I think what you need to look at is the fact that you're going to get that extra artifact, and you're going to get that extra relentless discipline point every battle round. I think that's what is made to look for, especially when something's only 80 points. So yeah, I think this has got play, but I think it will fail sometimes. But even if it does, you've still got that extra artifact and that extra relentless discipline point, basically. So then the next one is the Aegis Mortars, which is kind of the same, but just swap out the units for the alternative. So we've got 1 Morgast Archive unit and 2 Immortis Guard units, and it's going to cost you 80 points again. So, like, very similar. Immortis Guard is the basically the normal Necropolis Stalkers, but they ditch the forearms. Well, actually, I think they might have forearms still, but they have the shield and the massive glaive. And then the Morgast Archive unit is obviously the one with the 5-up save against mortal wounds. So, like I say, 80 points. The abilities is the Undying Guardian. So the Morgast Archive unit from this battalion has the Soulbound Protector's ability from the Immortis Guard Warscroll. So what does that ability do? I think the range on it was 3 inches. So what it meant is a friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper hero who is within 3 inches of an Immortis Guard unit, when they take damage on a 2-up, basically you pass on to the Immortis Guard. It worked out really well in one situation for me and kept my, basically, Liege Cavios alive for ages. Really did work out really nicely. So I do like the Immortis Guard. I think there's definitely a place for, like, 1 unit in your army, maybe more, depending on how, like, reliant you're going to be on your heroes, so you don't want them to die. But yes, that's basically what it is. So the Morgasts Archi gain that ability, which is nice because they also have that 5-up save, don't they, against it. It says, in addition, when you use a Soulbound Protector's ability for a unit from this battalion and the dice roll is a 6, the wound or mortal wound is negated instead of being allocated to a unit from this battalion. So I'll tell you what, sorry about this guys, I'm just going to quickly have a look just to see if it is on a 2-up or a 3-up, because I have reviewed this before, but it is annoying me. I just want to make sure I've got it right. Where are Mortars? Yeah, so the range unit's 3 inches, and it is on a 2-up. So basically, what this is saying, instead of rolling that dice and, you know, looking for a 2-up just to pass it on to the Mortis Guard or the Morgasts Archi, actually, if you can get a 5, you just ignore the damage. Which I think is really good, especially if you want to go like really heavy with Cataclysm or something like that. You're going to keep that bastard alive for ages. If you want to do it with, even with something like I said, Liege Cavios, that you're reliant in your army, or Arkan the Black, or even Nagash, although his points look really expensive now since Soulblight Gravelords. This is a great little battalion to just keep your supportive characters alive, even like a Soul Mason or something. So I do like this. It's one of my favourite battalions from the Ossiarch Bonereapers. The only thing though is like you just, although it says 80 points here, by the time you put in a unit of Morgasts Archi and 2 units of Mortis Guard units, you know, it's really feeding into your points. So if you look at it as, oh, it's just like a little protected bubble. And then before you know it, what is it, 180 points I think? No, the Mortis Guard are 200 points, I believe, something like that. They're in that category, and what that means is you're kind of spent just under 600 points for the organisation here. I think you're, yeah, just under 600 points, and then with the 80 points here, you're probably spent about 650 points on this for the minimum size. Now, I would only go minimum size because I'm not looking for the Archi unit to be really offensive, for the Mortis Guard unit to be really offensive as well. But, you know, 650 points is a lot of points, especially in Ossiarch Bonereaper Army, for you to then fit everything else in. So, it works well in not practice. It works well in theory, but in practice, it's just harder when it comes to writing an army list, because you'll read this and you'll like it. If you're like me, you'll think, oh, I can see the use here and everything else, and then you'll do your army list and you go, oh, I just don't have points for this. So maybe if you're playing like 2,000 points, 500, I could definitely see more use in this. The bigger your points of your army, I could see definitely more use for this. It's not like the Death Glaive where it is what it is. This is, the bigger your army, the more points you've got for this sort of thing. So the 80 points we can see here, with everything else, the 650 points roughly, it won't really seem too much of a big deal if you're playing, I don't know, 3,000 point games. But how often do you play those size of games is obviously a different question, which probably results in not a lot. But I do like it and I respect it for 80 points. And again, you're getting the artifact of choice and those extra relentless system points. And then the next one, which is the Valkos Lance. This is 120 points. So this is the battalion that I've got the most experience with. And probably the one that I like the most, to be absolutely honest with you. So the organisation is 1 Arch Cavios Xantos, obviously that named character, or 1 Liege Cavios, and then 2 Kavalos Death Rider units. So the ability is the Liege Companions. So what it means is units from this battalion can charge even if they retreated earlier in the same turn, if they are wholly within 12 inches of the Liege from the same battalion, when the charge roll is made. And then it says, in addition, once per turn, you can use the Death Rider's Wedge command ability from their unit's Warscroll without spending a relentless discipline point to do so. So it means that your guys can retreat and charge. And again, if you go in Static Lords, you might go, oh, but my Kavalos Death Riders already have a command ability in that army to already do so. Well, you can do it without spending a relentless discipline point, essentially. But mainly where this is good, obviously, if you don't go Static Lords, if you go for one of the other many good ones out there in Ossiarch Bonereapers, you've still got access to retreat and charge, which is huge. As someone who's like dabbled in Skaven this year, and I played Skaven for a few months, sort of like non-stop, just having my Storm Vermin and my Clan Rats be able to retreat and charge 1B games. Like, it might not sound like much, but it really does make a huge difference, especially how I've always said Age of Sigmar is a game that's won on movement, and for you to be able to manipulate the movement outside of the rules of the game, because you normally can't retreat and charge, and they're specifically said like here, it's huge. So that's why I really, really like this. Going on to the second part is the Death Rider's Wedge Command ability. So what does this do? So just a little recap. What it meant is when a unit of your Death Riders charges, you can use its command ability as Warscroll. What you do is you pick a enemy unit, I believe within 1 inch of the Death Rider unit, and then you roll how many dice are models in this unit. So if you've got a unit of 10 Death Riders, let's say you roll 10 dice, and then for every 5 up, that enemy unit that you picked suffers a mortal wound. So it's hit and miss. I've done it. Sometimes I've rolled like 10 dice and happened to get like 5 5s and up, and sometimes I haven't got 1. But on average, you're doing no maths hammer here at all, but about 3-4 mortal wounds to the enemy, which is nice on a unit of 10, of course. If you've got a unit of 5, it's not worth it as much. But just being able to do this for free is nice, because a lot of the time you go, oh, I need to do like a bit. I really want to make sure I kill this unit my Death Riders are charging, so it frees them up next turn. But you might go, but I just don't know if I've got a relentless discipline points to spend it on that mortal wound potential. Well, you take this, you do it for free. You can obviously just for one of the units, but the other thing to mention as well is that obviously you're getting that extra relentless discipline point every battle round, so it's helping you be able to do it for your other unit of Kavalos Death Riders. And the nice bit about the Wedge command ability you've got for the Death Riders is the fact that, to be honest, like I would just say the mortal wound potential is nice, but I think this is better because it then allows your unit of Death Riders to pile in 6 inches instead of 3 inches, which is really, really quite big. Obviously, like I've already said, movement is key, help you move a little bit closer to objectives, but mainly if you've got a big unit of 10, just to make sure all you guys get into combat, because definitely go swords with your Kavalos Death Rider units. I know the I think the Death Rider Wedge command ability, no, it doesn't affect it if you've got spears and thinking of the exploding 6s to hit. But what I will say is that I took a unit of 15 Kavalos Death Rider in one unit, right? So 15 of the bastards. And I gave them all spears because I was like, unit 15, they've got to have spears. I charged them all into a unit of, I believe it was 20 Phoenix Guard. Now, I will completely admit, Phoenix Guard are very hard to kill, right? They're one of the toughest things in the game with, if you look at just how their War Scroll works, right? But I charged 15 Kavalos Death Riders into them. I did the Mortal Wound ability as well, and I did the Lancers, and I think I killed 1, maybe 2. Like, ridiculous, right? Because the horses were attacking as well. And all I know is I would have killed more if I took bloody swords. So that's all I will say. And the extra 3 inches when you trigger this ability for your piling really does help you get your swords into combat, because it's obviously only 1 inch range. So I do like this Kavalos Lance, I think. 120 points. Again, it's 60 points less than a unit of 5 Kavalos Death Riders, and it's 10 points less than a unit of Mortis Guard. Is it worth it? I'm a bit arm and R. It's not like I've used it and I've gone, right, I'm never going back. I just think in certain circumstances it's useful, especially how I'm not massive on the Mortis Guard. Like, I have taken a lot of them and stuff in games, but the vast majority has been taking lots of Kavalos Death Riders if it's either MSU, so multiple swarm units, or bigger units, like I said, of 10 or maybe even 15, which I think was a mistake. So I've got quite a bit of experience with Kavalos Death Riders, and I do feel like this battalion has got its use, but it's not an auto pick, is what I will say. There is also an other, I don't know what it's called, there's someone's name, Death Lance or something, from the Broken Realms Tech-less book, which is an identical battalion, and I haven't got it on the screen because it's not even worth talking about for more than a minute if you watch my review for the Tech-less book. But basically, when armies are featured in these Broken Realm books, they tend to have a battalion at least for them. So the Flesh-Eater Court's got one, which was pretty useless in Broken Realms Tech-less, and so did the Ossiarch Bonereapers. And they weren't even creative, they just made it the same requirements as this. Apart from it was a Liege Cavios, and 2 Kavalos Death Rider units. So exactly the same, basically. You just can't take Arch Kavalos Xantos. So if you want to try and include this for your Mortis Praetorians and everything else with the Arch Kavalos, it's not going to work as well. And the battalion allowed you to... I think it was... Yeah, it had to be Static Lords. And when you can retreat and then charge later in Static Lords with that command ability for someone who has a mount, basically, what it allowed you to do is you didn't spend a command point once you did it, but you could only do it, I think, for one of the units in the battalion, you know, per turn, etc. And I did it, and to be fair, you do still spend a Relentless Discipline point. This is how bad it is. If you don't roll 4 more. Now, I did it, and I managed to roll 4 more, so I got the benefit of it. I didn't have to spend a Relentless Discipline point, but it was 120 points. It was fucking useless. I'm not going to be doing a full review on it. I've already done a review by just saying that, to be honest with you. And it annoyed me because it wasn't creative at all. It didn't bring anything new to the table in terms of organisation for a battalion for Ossiarch Bonereapers. And it was worse than the current one we have here, which is the Kavalos Death Lance. And especially Ossiarch Bonereapers, like I said, they don't have an outstanding battalion. It's like, yep, this one every time. It's really good. You want to take it. It's solid. It's a really, really good battalion. They don't. All the battalions are all right. Some better than others. The Kavalos Death Lance is probably the most common one you will see actually used in practice. So the fact that they made basically a Kavalos Death Lance 0.2 and it was worse than the first one was just annoying to see, really. But no, the Kavalos Death Lance in particular is good. And then going on to the next one, which I believe is the last one as well, is going to be the Mortec Blister. So this is 100 points, so pretty cheap. The organisation has 1 Mortec Bone Shaper, 1 Mortec Guard unit, and 2 Mortec Crawlers. So 2 Mortec Crawlers is something you're definitely going to see in a fair few Ossiarch Bonereaper lists. I mean, I've taken that for sure. Bone Shaper, yep, you could see that there. And the Mortec Guard, 1 unit, yeah. You could easily see all this being included in the Ossiarch Bonereaper Army, basically. So the ability, though, so it's a vital asset. So roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Mortec Crawler from this battalion, while it is within 3 inches of a Mortec Guard from the same battalion. Add 2 to the roll if the Mortec Crawler is within 3 inches of a Mortec, Mortisan Bone Shaper from the same battalion. On a 4+, that wound or mortal wound is allocated to the Mortec Guard instead of the Mortec Crawler. So I'm a little bit in 2 minds of this, and I'll talk about the positive mind first, right? So I can see what they tried to do, and I can see from, you know, a narrative and, I don't know, historical, or how it just looks like in theory. It's like you have a shield wall protecting your artillery. Instead of your artillery taking damage, the shield wall takes it instead because they're defending your artillery. It just sounds, you know, just rolls off the tongue, right? It just sounds perfect. However, in my experience, Mortec Crawlers, when they take damage, yes, their 5 damage gets worse. However, if they're already in combat anyway, let's say they take damage from combat, it's going to take you a turn or 2 to bloody retreat and fire again. So I feel like... like if you're already stuck in combat with a Mortec Crawler, if your Mortec Crawler is already stuck in combat and it's not early on in the game, you're probably not going to have the time to retreat and shoot it again. So if it takes damage, you're probably not too bothered. And you want your Mortec Guard unit to not take damage so it can fight off whatever fighting the Mortec Crawler better than the Mortec Crawler can. And then what I'll say as well is, let's say it comes from shooting. Again, the problem is your damage on your Mortec Crawler, when it takes damage itself on the damage table, its 5 damage gets worse, like I've mentioned. But the thing with this, though, is it's one of its special shots. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the special shots to try and beat the enemies, I think it's the wound, or might be the bravery. Anyway, can't remember. Basically, you roll 2 dice, try and beat that characteristic, and the enemy will have to really be in a bit of trouble, because if you beat that characteristic, that enemy model that you picked is dead. Now, that I'll tell you what, I'm reading this off half memories and stuff. Apologies. Let me just get it up. It's a lot easier than trying to remember off the top of my head because I want to get it right. Because one of the one of the catapult shots is not special shots, not very good. Which one do we want? We want the Cursed Steely, because the Cursed Steely, so do not use the attack sequence for an attack made with the Cursed Steely. Instead, pick one enemy model that is in range of the attack 36 inches and roll 2d6. Add the modifier for the Cursed Steely shown on the damage table above to the roll. If the result is equal or greater than the wounds characteristic, so it was wounds, of the target, it is slain. Okay, so that sounds great. So you're just going to roll 2 dice. What about, you know, if it's a hero with like 7 wounds, let's say, on 2 dice, the average is 7, so you'll be able to kill it. You know, that's pretty good. However, the Cursed Steely, you have to refer to the damage table like it said, and it starts with having to -3 from your roll. However, the more damage you take, and go all the way to you've taken 10 damage, you're +3 to your roll. So my experience with Mortec Crawlers is I kind of save that special shot to the end unless the enemy's made a mistake and I break their coherency in a unit and make them want to quit Age of Sigmar and punch me in the face. What I do is I save that special shot to the end for when my catapult was taking sufficient damage that I'm getting like +1 or +3 to that roll, and I can really start taking out some big things in the enemy army. So what I'm saying, and doing a long way to say it, is that I do want to take damage on at least one of my Mortec Crawlers throughout the battle so I can do the special shots. And that is why I don't like the fact that I'm passing off damage to the Mortec Guard unit. I can see what they were trying to do. Like I said, you know, narratively it makes sense, but in terms of the game, I don't think so. Again, you guys may disagree with me. If you do, put that down below in the comments as well. And what I will say with that is that has came to the end of the video, because those are all the battalions we've got to the Ossiarch Bonereapers. There's a massive battalion as well. What does the massive battalion mean? You have to include, I think, all the other battalions, and it's really expensive, and if you're playing like 5,000 points, you may use it. And then, like I said, the one from Broken Realms, Techless, don't waste your time like I did playing it. And that's pretty much it. So what I will say, guys, is I hope that you enjoyed this video. Just go there so we can get all the names and stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any other questions, anything like that, like I say, put that down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to try and help you best I can as always. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash the like button, the subscribe button, and bell notification. 3 reasons why. So by liking the video, shows to me that you guys are enjoying things from the subjects, Ossiarch Bonereapers, battalion reviews, anything like that. And also makes me realise that if you guys are enjoying this, I know to make more of it. YouTube sees that people are enjoying this video and helps to recommend it to people, which massively helps out the channel. And then by subscribing to the channel, it allows the channel to grow. That's the biggest way, obviously, how I can provide bigger and better content for making the channel grow. And then by pressing the bell notification, that's the third one, it basically means that you'll never miss one of my future videos. So if it's about Ossiarch Bonereapers or about anything else that I'm covering and you're enjoying, make sure you smash the bell button so it means you won't miss it. And then what I also want to say as well is if you would like to support the channel a step further, I have, as you can see on the screen, so I've already mentioned earlier in the video, got a Patreon and a YouTube membership. So what does that mean? So if you click the join button next to the subscribe button, it would mean that you can become a member here on Age of Nagash, where you can give anything from just £1 a month, go straight towards keeping the channel going. As I always say, here on a YouTube channel, you know, it takes so much time and effort and resources and money and all those sorts of things that the money I get back from YouTube, Patreon and membership, it doesn't cover all the other costs, but what it shows me is that people enjoy these videos enough for me to be able to say that it's worth doing. So because of these people, I am able to continue making content, like I say, for Warhammer Age of Sigmar and trying to help you guys get into Age of Sigmar and continue your Age of Sigmar journey best I can. So if you want to become one of these amazing people, join the press the join button to become a member here on Age of Nagash, or go to a link you'll find at the top of the description down below. Take you to my Patreon, and you can do it there. You can give just $1 a month and go straight towards keeping the channel going. But going on to the people who make this all possible are going to be, like I say, my Patrons and YouTube members. So this is going to be, firstly, my Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragons. So this is going to be Stuart F and Filq. Like I said before, guys, thank you so much for continued support. That tier as well. It's a huge appreciation from me to you for saying, basically, thank you so much for deciding to support the channel personally that much on that level. So thank you so much. And then my Morgasts, which is Bleed Red, thank you so much for supporting the channel for a long time as well. Then my vampires, which a lot of them have been supporting for quite a while as well. It's going to be Mir, Martin S, Rouse321, David A, Ronni H, SpareBear, Christopher H, Stence, Northdrop, Nathan F, and Andrew G. Thank you so much for your continued support. And then my Necromancers, which is Jacq.l, RadiationRiley, AW77, Dice Sagas, WolfNick, Michal W, Quad, Cranky Wombat, Christopher C, Christopher F, James S, Robin S, Steve T, James T, Patrick F, JJ, Thomas B, R. Christopher, and Madcap. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Because of you, I am able to keep this up, and it's honestly doing the YouTube. I've met so many great people. I managed to create such a great community in the Discord, for example. So you want to join the Discord, join the conversation, all that sort of thing. There'll be a link to my Discord in the description of this video. And what I say as well is if you think you know someone else who enjoyed this video or maybe learned something, make sure you share it with them. And like I say, if you want to support in any of this way, feel free, would be amazing. But if you can't, no worries, like, subscribe, bell notification. That's all I ask if you do enjoy the videos, as it does help. And best thing, it's absolutely free. And then above all that, guys, I'm going to hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm glad that you came here, checked out this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, until next time, to stay safe, hygienic, wear a mask, and for God's sake, wash your hands. So by the time we can actually play games again, maybe you'll take one of these many battalions for the Ossiarch Bonereapers, and maybe the one from Broken Realms tech list, just to try and prove me wrong. Let me know how that goes if you do. But more importantly than all that, though, is remember until next time that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.